Over the years, you may have noticed there's a reoccurring side character I talk about on my channel from time to time. Someone who is by all possible definitions a hero, a very, very important presence in this country. And unfortunately, the only time his name is invoked is when there are some villains looking to murder him. Literally slit his throat on the street and spill his blood to our dismay. This is a hero that every normal person should be celebrating. It's like Moomin Rider from One Punch Man. Might not be the star of the show everyone's talking about, but it's someone that everyone should support, except for the bad guys. This character's name is Section 230. I got a little lost in the sauce with this introduction here. Section 230 is an extremely important piece of legislation that's been around for coming up on exactly 30 years, 1996. Wow. That really put in perspective how old I'm getting, because I'm 1994. I am older than Section 230, holy shit. But point is, outside of my bones turning to dust and everything, Section 230 is still young and spry and extremely important for the current landscape of the internet, and was a fundamental building block that allowed the internet to bloom in the first place. It's extremely simple. Even if you're hitting whippets right now, you'll still be able to comprehend what it's saying. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. Now, why am I bringing this up now? Well, it's because there seems to be a pretty big push to dismantle Section 230. Actor Joseph Gordon-Levitt actually just made a pretty strong statement in condemnation of Section 230 and how things desperately need to change to save ourselves.
I understand what Section 230 did to bring about the birth of the internet. That was 30 years ago.
You know what else was 30 years ago, Joseph? Your last good movie, dweeb. So even though it was 30 years ago, it is just as important today as it was then. Now, over the years, I'm sure a lot of you have heard me yap about Section 230 a handful of times because the people in power are trying to kill this fucking thing more often than Kenny in South Park. They hate Section 230. When Democrats were in charge, it caught a lot of scrutiny, claiming that it was enabling the spread of racism and harming children. With Republicans in power, they're claiming that it's spreading misinformation and anti-Semitism. This is a bipartisan punching bag that they desperately want to just beat down. It's just been thorn in the side of people that want to control your speech pretty much since its inception. Since the advent of the internet, Section 230 has been a target for people that want to control your speech and infringe on your First Amendment rights. And dismantling Section 230 would fundamentally change the internet as you know it, and that's not an exaggeration to say it. To put it even more simply, Section 230 allows goobers like me to post whatever they want, saying whatever they want, and the platform itself is not liable for whatever I've made or said. That is on me, personally. The platform isn't going to be, fucking dragged through the streets with legs spread like a goddamn Thanksgiving turkey for it and getting blasted by lawsuits or whatever. Now, of course, there are limitations in place when it comes to illegal content, things that actually break the law. That is, of course, a very different set of circumstances. That's a different can of worms, and that's handled differently. But it should be obvious why Section 230 is so important, because if these platforms were held liable for every single thing people post on their platforms, they would get into a lot of hot water and they would just not allow people to post things. Full stop, because it would be too dangerous to do so. They would need to micromanage and control every single thing that hits the platform in order to protect themselves. No matter how you spin it, this would ruin the internet. It's a pile of dog shit. No matter how much perfume gets sprayed on it or how they want to repackage it, it still stinks. This would affect literally every platform that has anything user submitted in any capacity at all.
And I also understand how the internet has changed since then. Because back then, message boards and other websites with user-generated content, they really were more like telephone carriers. They were neutral platforms. But that's not how things work anymore. Today, the internet is dominated by a small handful of these gigantic businesses that are not at all neutral.
So nothing's changed. Brother, wake up! Stop sipping the stupid potion. These mega corporations, these platforms, they've never been neutral. Just because you want to delude yourself into fantasy land thinking that it used to be neutral just because you didn't want to pay attention doesn't mean that's the actual truth of the matter. They've never been neutral.
But instead, algorithmically amplify whatever gets the most attention and maximizes ad revenue. And we know what happens when we let these engagement optimization algorithms be the lens that we see the world through. We get a mental health crisis, especially amongst young people. We get a rise in extremism and a rise in conspiracy theories. And then, of course, we get these echo chambers. These algorithms, they amplify the demonization of the other side so badly that we can't even have a civil conversation. It seems like we can't agree on anything.
These are the same talking points I've heard for over a decade now, and I'm sure many of you are exhausted of hearing them as well. This is the textbook yap. And now I know I said Joseph was drinking the dummy potion earlier, but the truth of the matter is he's shilling. There are people that are paying a lot of money to try and plant this idea in your brain that Section 230 is a bad thing. It only leads to things like extremism and conspiracy theories and demonization and that kind of thing. That's not true. Anyone who stops and thinks about this for even just a moment, firing on a few neurons, should be able to recognize how outrageous this proposal is. How would shutting down conversation and shutting down the ability to express thoughts and opinions somehow help combat the rise of extremism and conspiracies? That would only exacerbate the problem. Censorship doesn't solve these issues. It makes them worse. This is a tool utilized by people that want to control your thoughts and also be able to feed you any narratives they want to spin. Like right now, if there is a publication that puts out just a bunch of phony baloney nonsense, tons of people can call it out. And you, as just a normal, average Joe Schmo, can see like, oh, maybe this isn't a trustworthy source. But if you take away all those other voices and you only have this heavily curated, approved source that puts this information out that is incorrect, you have no recourse. You have no way of knowing that something is wrong. It's a big problem. It makes you worse off. And this is not some far-fetched example. Platforms would not allow just completely unfiltered usage of normal people expressing their thoughts because those thoughts might go against the official narrative from the curated source. And then the curated source might go after the platform saying, this is defamatory. These people have just said something hosted on your platform and we're coming after you with lawsuits. So they just wouldn't allow it. To extend this even bigger, Netanyahu has publicly, proudly stated that one thing he believes Israel needs to focus on is controlling platforms like TikTok. He has said this because he wants to better control the narrative around Israel because, well, a lot of people aren't huge Israel fans these days, if you can believe it. So he wants to control the conversation about Israel through being able to control how it's talked about on TikTok, which obviously would mean anyone that wants to start talking about Palestine and the atrocities and the genocide in Palestine would be muzzled because, well, that would now be something that TikTok would be liable for, and they don't want to take the chance anymore. Section 230 is extremely valuable in free speech.
And yet, one of the only things that the American public seems to agree broadly on right now, left, right, and center, Republicans, Democrats, independents, we all agree that we don't trust these big tech businesses and we don't like the influence they're having on our lives and the lives of our kids. Well, if we want to do something about that, the right first step is to sunset Section 230. It's not going to solve everything, but it is the right first step.
It is indeed the right first step for these corporations and political vampires. It would create a society of thoughtless sheep that would be perpetually silenced and censored. That's what would happen with Section 230 no longer being applicable if they did just get rid of it. It's ridiculous, and of course you knew they were going to dust off the tried and true tactic of think of the children. Any time that this kind of topic is brought up, that is undoubtedly going to show up. Children being poisoned by social media. I hope you're sitting down because there's going to be a shocking statement here. There's a brave take. Be a parent. Kids shouldn't be on social media in the first place. They shouldn't have unmonitored access to the internet to begin with. Be a parent. It is not the internet's job to cater to your lack of parenting by just letting your kid online. Fucking lazy, trash-ass parents just sit a kid in front of a computer or an iPad and then are stunned when apparently they find bad shit. Be a parent. Be involved in your kid's life. Raise your children. Don't make it the internet's job to do that for you. This is something I've said for over a decade now, and it keeps coming up. It's unbelievable that some people still think that this is some kind of slam dunk and like a good justification for getting rid of Section 230. It's so concerning. And going even deeper here, they keep saying that this rolling back of liability protection for tech companies would help enforce real accountability. By the way, how about real accountability for bad parents that just let their kids online? He then pointed to the Kids Online Safety Act, KOSA, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Something needs to change. Big tech needs to be incentivized to protect kids online, and if they don't, they should be held civilly liable. Sunsetting Section 230 won't destroy the internet, and nothing we are proposing will impact our First Amendment rights, said Bridget Noring, whose son Devin died by fentanyl poisoning after connecting with a drug dealer on a photo messaging service Snapchat. What it will do is end blanket immunity without responsibility for tech companies. That is tragic, and I am very sorry to hear about the loss of her son. However, what she is saying absolutely would destroy the internet. This has been a conversation that's been had for decades. You can go and look at all of the data and why this hasn't happened before in the past, because there has been enough sense from people to shoot it down eventually, even though it does sometimes make it kind of deep through the motions. Eventually it has been getting shot down because of how important these freedoms are and how it does impact First Amendment rights in a lot of cases. Also, that statement about ending blanket immunity for these companies, that's not really going to be the end result of 230 being destroyed. And also, there's not really a blanket immunity in general for everything either, because, again, illegal content is still not allowed. Notably, on Twitter, like a month or two ago, there was a huge issue where users were using Grok to undress children in photographs. They were taking photos of children and asking Grok to take their clothes off. So they were spreading child porn throughout Twitter. That is highly illegal. That is a horrible thing. And that is something that is not protected. Now, I know I've been yapping about this for a while, and I've made quite a few videos yapping about Section 230 in general because it's something that continues to be targeted. It is something that if you don't know about it, you should know how important it is that it remain. It should not be something that is just fucking destroyed and abandoned. So don't fall for like the brainwashing here that Section 230 bad. That's just not true. Anyway, just wanted to talk about this a little bit. That's it. Yep.